I do remote viewing, and so when I do I call them jump sessions. The leaving is the easiest part. It's the getting there and walking the tightrope to be able to stay in that.
This number 26 has to do with a mile marker on the highway or with something related to the location of this missing person.
Yes, it's the mile marker.
Hello, I'd like to welcome Belva Weston from Flandreau, South Dakota. When Belva was 30 years old, she had an NDE due to heart complications. And Belva is here today to share her story with us. Um, and in a little while after our talk, we will dive into some hypnosis and revisit this presence that she encountered on the other side. So thanks for joining me, Belva.
Thanks for having me.
So yeah, where would you like to start with your NDE story?
I was I'm a retired nurse, and I was on the evening shift, and I laid down. I had two boys at the time, two boys at home. One was 3 and one was about a year old. So I put the year old down for a nap and put the 3 year old down for a nap, and I laid down with him. And I was really tired that day. I've since come to find out that tiredness is a kind of a marker for when I need to rest. Sometimes I push myself beyond. And so I must have done that because when we laid down to rest, he went to sleep, and I started hearing this. It sounded like a train if you've ever been in a tornado. The yeah, that started, and I wasn't in any pain. I didn't feel any physical discomfort other than the rumbling, and I knew something was going to happen here. So as I laid there, all of a sudden, um, I felt like my body was changing, and my spirit was actually leaving my body, and I was able to watch it. Um, I was able to see the bits of my soul coming out of each cell in my body. And I painted a series of paintings that I call my near death series. And it shows the light coming out of each cell. And I was above my body, and I could see all the bits of light coming together. And when it came together outside my body, I was out in space. I mean, I didn't see any stars, but it was black all around me. And there was someone, or more than one someone's near me. I I didn't see a tunnel, um, but I knew there was somebody near me, and they wanted to know what I wanted to do. And they said, or they let me know that it couldn't be for me. It had to be for somebody else. So my brother was in the VA hospital in Sioux Falls at the time. So as soon as I thought about him, I materialized there, and I came through the wall in his hospital room, and I walked over to his bed, and I saw that he was in traction. One of his legs had been broken in a car accident. And so I laid my hands on his hip. And I could see the golden energy flowing out of my hands into his hip. And it was kind of going down his right leg. And I told him, "You are healed." And then I left. And he later told my mother that a woman with long black hair and wearing a long dress with stars on it came into his room and laid her hands on his hip and told him he was healed. So he believed it and he tried to get out of bed. Well, the VA nurses said, "You're getting too much Percodan and we're going to take those pills away from you."
Yeah.
So I got my kind of proof that, yes, I had been there.
Mm.
And he did actually heal up. His knee didn't heal because I didn't know about his knee. I just put the energy where I felt it needed to go, which was his pelvis.
So when you left your body, that was your first experience of that? Like you didn't have any previous memory of doing that before, or?
I did have another, excuse me, near death experience at the age of 4. And I was in surgery getting a tonsillectomy. And I woke up above the table and I saw a lot of blood. And I was floating above the table looking down at my body. Um, and I told my mother about it later on, but I was 4 years old. I'm sure she didn't
Yeah.
think much of it.
Mhm.
But that was the first time that I know of.
Okay. So you were in the hospital, you visited your brother, you said, right? Uh, and then what happened after that?
After that, um, when I felt that's, what I was there to do, then I was back in the darkness again. And as I floated in the darkness, I looked off into the distance and I saw a long, long white band of sparkling, beautiful light. And I could feel love coming from it. And I wanted to be there. I wanted to be in the love. And so my spirit was zooming over there. I mean, without a body, you go so quickly, you think and it happens. So as I'm coming into the light, it looked like, how the eggs are laid in a carton of eggs. There's a space for each egg.
Right.
Well, there's an open space for me. And as I came closer to this band of, oh, I can't, words are so weak. Um, Beautiful white light, the music. I'd never heard that kind of music before. And the love that I felt like I was coming home. And so between all of these things, I saw my space in the light and I went into it and I was happy. I was in heaven, literally. I was in ecstasy, and that's another weak word.
Yeah.
Ecstasy does not cover
They
all
all
of.
fall short. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I was, quite happy, not really wanting to come back, but they said you can't stay here. And again, I didn't actually see anybody, but I could hear the voice. They were with me. And I was like, oh. And they said, if you don't return, 2 of your children will not make it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it wasn't like you were forced to go back necessarily. It was them just showing you, or the voice showing you the implications of not returning. That was enough for you.
Yep.
And so right at that moment, was it just another light speed movement and you were back in the body, or
Two other bright white light, um, I guess you could call them guides. I think of them as spirits, but they came on either side of me and they've continued to be with me since that time. I've actually seen them in, I'm Native American and I did a fasting out in the countryside. And during the fast, I was in and out of my body, and I could see these two 10-foot tall warriors kind of guarding my back. They were looking to the east, standing there, and they were just wearing breechcloths. Two 10-foot tall native people with long hair. And
sounds impressive. Yeah.
yeah, they came back with me and they've been with me. I've had people tell me there's a really large spirit standing beside you, and I'm like, yeah, that's one of my guides. So when they told me I had to go back, or if I didn't, then I was like, oh, they also, I knew things at the time. I knew things that I had no way of knowing. I knew how things were going to happen. But once I crossed back in to my body, I don't have a memory of exactly what it was that I knew. But as I came in, it was the same way going out. The rumbling.
Yeah, that rumbling you're describing is a part of that whole OBE process, where when you practice leaving your body at night, that's a very typical stage, I think, where you start to feel a very intense vibration, or hear it too. And yeah, so that makes a lot of sense.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it was. And as I've come to find out, it's getting easier. I do remote viewing, and so when I do I call them jump sessions. The leaving is the easiest part. It's the getting there and walking the tightrope to be able to stay in that particular state.
So yeah, I forgot to ask you at the beginning, but you said that there was a case number that you were looking
Oh
to
yeah,
zero in on. Could I just write that down real quick? And
yes, it's an 8 number case,
Mhm.
and it's 01142020. I've been doing work looking for missing people for going on 17, 18 years. Um, and it's getting better, but as with any skill, the more you practice it, the better you get.
Right. Maybe that was the knowing that you weren't quite sure what you knew that you were bringing back into the body was the was the remote viewing component,
Oh yeah.
possibly. That might make sense.
Yeah, and that didn't actually start until 1996, I think. So, yeah.
Fascinating. So it sounds like when you were out of the body during your NDE, it wasn't like it must have felt half familiar to you because you obviously went over to your brother and you just seemed to know what to do. So the forgetfulness that we experience when we come into the body must have kind of dissolved a bit when you went back out of the body by the sounds of it.
And I think I've actually seen or I've read other people's near-death experiences, and there are some of them that say the same thing. I knew all these things over here, but when I came back in, that didn't come with me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It seems that the setup is tended to uh seem as real and disconnected as possible.
Yeah, yeah, and that kind of begs the question of, you know, life plans, um, fulfillment of our life plans, what we came to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It certainly makes the process of realizing things about yourself more vivid and because it comes from a place of total forgetfulness of where you come from and what you actually are. So um, yeah, it's quite the ride we're on.
Yeah.
Is there anything else about the NDE you wanted to cover before we jump into some hypnosis?
Just that um, I've read a lot of the research, and Phyllis Atwater talks about how it takes at least 7 years to be able to adjust to having that near-death experience. And you don't realize you're adjusting, but it does take a while to figure out what happened and
Integrate the
yeah, and to adjust to the new I don't want abilities, whatever that you now have that you didn't have before you went in there.
yeah, and just your life situation too. Like you come back often very changed and yet maybe the people around you are not. So there's an adjustment to, well, how do I relate to these people still and in the same way? Or I'm sure that's a whole process.
That's a whole nother thing, the primary relationships, because you're not the person that they married. And they say that. They say, you changed. I don't know how to, so we've gone through that back and forth, changing, adjusting.
So are you still with the person? Were you married at the time? Sorry. Yeah, you were
Yes,
married, right? Yeah.
yeah.
So
I
you're
was married, and we got divorced about 20 years in, and we were divorced for 4 or 5 years. And then I got sick. I had a immune disease.
mhm.
I had to take chemo. So we got remarried. And he's taken care of me the second 20 some years.
Just
So
needed a break. Yeah.
yeah, 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 life is funny.
That it is. Yeah. Okay. So, are you ready to jump into some hypnosis and
Yep,
go for the ride? Awesome.
yep, I'm ready.
Great. So all I need from you is to just get comfortable. You can just do whatever you need to feel relaxed in your chair. I'll take my tea. Just peaceful, pure awareness. With each exhale, the body takes. It's just a deeper let go into this silence, into this pure awareness. Can you tell me about it? What do you see? What do you hear or smell?
I feel like I'm in cotton. I'm suspended in white light, just floating, and I am at peace.
You feel love? Is there a love?
Yes, I'm accepted.
I'd like you to ask this light to help you to become clear with your mind and your images, the images that your mind is able to create. And I'd like you to focus on a missing person case number that you've been looking for a while. And I'd like you to just ask without needing to use words or anything, but just ask from a heart level to be shown some images for this case number that we call 011422020. And just sit with the silence of this light and ask to be shown some images that are connected to this number. Do you see anything?
I see a 26, number 26.
So I'd like you to ask this light, just again on a heart level, ask this light if this number 26 has to do with a mile marker on the highway or with something related to the location of this missing person.
Yes, it's the mile marker.
Wonderful. And now I'd like you to ask to go there right now over the location of where this body has come to rest. And I'd like you to look around just from above and tell me what you see.
I see trees, kind of a pull off, where you pull off the highway,
Mm-hmm.
gravel, gravel on the ground. There's there's a small creek running through. I think that's I think that's north, but I'm not really sure because I'm not sure about directions.
So if you look around you off in the distance, what do you see? What is the scenery like? Do you see some hills or
Hills, yeah, not mountains, but tree covered hills.
is there any unique features of this area that you can identify?
Mm, thick, thick trees. And the creek is not too far from the road.
So is the body near the creek?
Mm, no,
So if you were to come back to the road now and move from the road in the direction of where the remains are, what direction would you go?
Um, I think that's northeast. Again, if north is in front of me, then this is kind of off to the not totally east, but maybe halfway between north and east. So northeast. And I think it's across the creek. It's on the other side.
And is it buried? Is it difficult to get to?
It's on a hillside, but I mean, all the hills are fairly steep.
Now I'd like you to come back into this light, and I'd like you to just connect with the energy of the soul that used to inhabit that body. Just from a simple, innocent asking from the heart to connect with it. Do you feel the presence of that soul?
It's kind of weak.
So I want you to just invite this soul just to be with you in this space of light and love and peace. Just to be thankful now for being given this information that can help bring peace to the family. Do you find yourself back in the light now?
Yes.
Now I'd like you to ask again from a heart level. Ask this light to give you some new awareness of your abilities to see images, to remote view, so that when you awaken, these abilities will be enhanced. And you'll be able to access them more easily now. And I'd also like you to take this whole experience of just dropping into the body effortlessly and coming out of the body effortlessly with you back when you awaken as another means to access whatever information you need whenever you want, whatever habits that need to be dropped can be dropped easily in order to make room for a clear seeing of things. To just be guided now, or whenever needed, to drop any unhelpful habits of mind that make it difficult to see, to have clarity. So that when you awaken, you'll just intuitively know, just as you intuitively knew when you first left the body, when you were 30, and visited your brother, you'll just intuitively know how to access whatever information you need whenever you need it. coming back to a place of equilibrium. And 5, open your eyes.
Oh,
How do you feel?
I feel good, very relaxed.
Good. Yeah, you look relaxed.
Ah, well, that was perfect. Exactly what I've been looking for a couple of years, actually.
Oh, is it?
Um,
Yeah.
Speeding up the process because sometimes, depending on what's going on, um, I can't get into it.
Right.
And, you know, and that's life. You can't always, but
Yeah. It does help when there's an external guide so
yeah,
that you don't have to keep accessing the mind to do things. And yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I'm moving on towards trance mediumship, which this is the first part, being able to get there. Well, I knew I could get there, but I just couldn't get there all the time, or, you know, 75% of the time I could get there, but that other 25%.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you can have all of the parts, which you have, but sometimes it's just, arranging them in such a way with certain tools that then things start to click. Yeah.
Yep. And your mind knows when you go through this, and this, okay, this is where we're going, and it gets ready. And there are days where I don't even get to, you know, the 5 minute range and I'm gone. So those are the good days. The other days are on and on.
Yeah. Yeah. As I was talking to you, it did seem like you just knew where to go right away. Yeah. Yeah. So you're definitely an experienced, um, what's the word? I don't know. Intuitive
Travel,
traveler. Yeah.
going
All right.
to before we got to the part where you asked me the questions, I kept seeing the number 26 flashing, flashing, flashing. I'm like, okay, I got it. So it's like, okay. And then the northeast, which,
Yeah. And you mentioned a creek, and some rock, cliff faces, I think. Yeah.
yeah, it's not exactly, they're not mountains, they're just high hills. I couldn't even tell you how high they are, but
Mm,
they're not that high.
yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned, I can send you the transcript of this after anyway, if you want to just look at the, um, word for word stuff. So
Okay, great.
yeah. Thank you, Belva. It was a lot of fun hanging out and hearing your story and going on this little trip with you.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
what are you going to do with these?
Yeah. So I've started posting them on my YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, it's a developing series, so looking to continue, meeting with people who've had NDEs and offering the hypnosis part. So
Well, good. Send me a link whenever you get done with it. And
I will,
I'll,
and I'll send you the transcript. I can send it to you later today if you want.
That's fine. Whenever.
Yeah,
I'm good.
perfect. Thanks,
And
Belva.
thank you for showing me a shorter way.
Yeah, yeah. Feel free to reach out anytime you want. I'd love to help out. Obviously, with missing persons, it's can help a lot. So, yeah,
Okay.
stay in touch.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye for now.